Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Dan Davidson. I'm the CEO of Business Star Makers, and this video is going to help you understand that no matter what, you are the CEO of the company, you're the founder of the company, you are the one who knows everything about your company and your vision, especially long term. You, as I have said in our other videos, you are the one that has the bird's eye view of the entire organization. You live on the penthouse floor of this entire organization, and you understand everything about the organization. You have the view of the past, you have the view of the future, and you have the understanding and the vision and the feel of what it is you want to do with this organization and what your plan is. So whenever you bring an expert in, even maybe someone with 30 years of experience like me in business and several degrees and acclaimed professional and all these things, you are still the main person who has to make the final decision on many major things. Never delegate major decisions to anyone. Okay, never. When it comes to major decisions in an organization, for example, when you're acquiring another company, when you are deciding to take on a debt, when you are deciding to sell a part of your organization, when you are making any major decisions, never sign something without reading the agreement. Never do something without thinking it through yourself. Never delegate major decisions without considering it yourself. Never think that, oh, if I do that, then my lower level management are going to think that I'm micromanaging. Yes, you are managing, because at the end of the day, you are liable. And here, let me tell you also what. In my experience of 30 some years, those managers, if something goes wrong, they'll simply go and find a much better job after you. They'll put in their resume that, hey, I worked so and so place for 3 or 4 years. And you know what? They'll find another job, a higher level job. Okay. If they're, if they're making 130, 40, $50,000 a year, they get a job at 160, 70, $80,000 a year. No problem. Okay. But here you are, as the CEO of the company, you got to be dealing with all the problems and issues that signature brought about. All the complications and liabilities that signature brought about. And it may have been in good faith. It may have been with all good intentions. It may have been that they intended to do great things for the company, but it's not their problem, because what? They were living on the fourth floor and you're on the eighth floor of the company penthouse. They didn't have any more visibility than fourth floor. So on the fourth floor visibility, there was a whole lot, 4 floors of visibility missing. They didn't know this. Fifth floor information, sixth, seventh, and eighth, and all the things in your head that you knew that you never shared, and it's hard to share. So had you read the agreement, you would have quickly picked it up and never signed it or renegotiated. But this individual didn't have a clue. So to him or her, it looked perfectly fine. Went ahead and signed it. But then, who's liable? You. So no surprise. When it comes down to it, you're going to be, dealing with the consequences of that contract. So never let someone sign a big contract without you reviewing it. There has to be a certain criteria where within that criteria, on a fourth floor, they can sign it. On the fifth floor, there's a criteria where they can actually have ability to do certain things, nothing beyond. Fifth, sixth, and so on. So you got to put those criterias in. Delegation. There is actually 4 quadrant of delegation. There's certain things that you can delegate to anybody. Hey, by up to a certain amount of money, certain things. Who cares? Okay. You can buy office supplies up to a certain amount of money. You can delegate that kind of things to anyone. Okay, that's not really significant. Then part of the second quadrant, the things that have some consequence but not really significant. Okay, put ads for employees, put this and that and the other if this is a small company. Those kind of things, yes, you can have maybe a junior staff, things that are a little bit of a consequence but not a major consequence. You can delegate that to maybe a junior staff. Third level things, they go to mid-level management. Those are things that have somewhat of a consequence, maybe in tens of thousands. That's the sort of level of the third level consequence. And then you have things on the fourth level of consequence. Those are executive level decisions. Those are things that you only delegate to people that actually you are willing to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars on. You don't delegate those to anyone lightly. So you got to be very cautious. You don't make those decisions lightly. You don't delegate those lightly. One of those contracts, one of those decisions, one of those mistakes could cost you dearly. So those fourth quadrant kind of decisions are very, very costly. So it starts from that first quadrant kind of decisions that you delegate, in maybe hundreds, then it goes to low thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. That fourth quadrant, very cautious, like big contracts in advertising that are a 1 year long, huge contracts of advertising, annual contracts, big contracts. You don't let anyone sign those. Those are big. Things like that, So, and many others, leases, long-term leases, huge decisions, purchasing things, big purchase contracts, selling things, huge sale, dealing with banks, taking on leases, taking on loans, negotiating loans. Listen, sometimes a 1% on a 30-year loan could turn out to be huge. Huge. So if you just don't do that final negotiation, that final negotiation yourself to make sure you can squeeze a little juice out of the lemon before you sign that 30-year lease or 30-year loan, that 1% over 30 years could turn out to be humongous in terms of dollars. So you got to make sure you squeeze every little percent out of a long-term negotiation yourself. So those kind of decisions, that's the fourth quadrant. And when you delegate it, make sure you squeeze every little, drop of juice out of the fourth quadrant. Out of the first quadrant, you don't even want to waste your time. Why? Because you're like spending your time that should be spent on the fourth quadrant on stuff that's worth $100. Your time belongs up there. So, you don't waste your time there. So that's the kind of way that you sort of divide up your time. So you have time to spend on the big stuff as you get busier in your career as a CEO and as a manager. When you're building a company early on, you're doing first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. You're full quadrant. You're all the four quadrants yourself. As the company starts growing, you start delegating the first quadrant away. Delegating second quadrant also. Then the third quadrant. Keep the fourth. That's you. That's the last that you delegate. And even that, very sparse, very sporadically, very cautiously, very selectively, and only to the right people And even then, you don't let them sign the final contract. You sign the final contracts. You do the final negotiations to make sure there's not a single drop of lemon juice left in the lemon before you do the signature. Make sure there's no liability left in the contract that can come and haunt you at the end in that fourth quadrant. Anywhere. Because at the end, there's a whole lot. The liability can kill you. Okay? You could be making millions in revenue. The liability is going to kill you. We're living in America. Okay? That one lawsuit can wipe you out. So always remember, it doesn't matter how much revenue you're bringing in. One lawsuit, 25 years down the road, can wipe you out. All your assets, personal assets, everything else can get all involved. So, and your name and reputation, everything else. So it is just that important not to take anything haphazardly. Very important. Okay, this was a multiple millions of dollars video. Worth watching over and over again. Okay, this was not for the junior guys only, for your senior guys as well, in your 30s and 40s. Okay, it pays off to save this and watch it over and over again, because delegation is great, especially as you get busier, but not the fourth quadrant. You may have the best executives in your organization. You still don't let them make those big decisions on their own without you double checking, quadruple checking, squeezing every little bit of the lemon juice out, reading the contracts, fine print yourself, and negotiating everything at the end and signing it yourself. Running it by an attorney if you have to. Make sure everything is correct before you're signing it. Liability, watch every bit of the liability, watch every bit of the long-term dollars. Very important.